Tourists who are interested in getting a glimpse of one of the world's most isolated and secretive states have been flocking in greater numbers in recent years to North Korea in the hopes of fulfilling their wanderlust. However, traveling to North Korea is fraught with significant dangers, the most majority of which tourists are either oblivious to or unprepared to face. North Korea should be avoided by all tourists except the most seasoned ones who have considerable experience in high-risk places, despite the fact that it may be tempting to mark off an exotic destination on one's bucket list. In this video, we will talk about a complete travel guide to North Korea and what to avoid. Inadequate access to fundamental legal protections. Visitors from other countries are virtually unprotected and do not possess any legal rights when in North Korea. The government exercises complete authority over every facet of society and refuses to acknowledge any foreign laws or diplomatic conventions. Over very small offenses or misunderstandings, tourists have been arbitrarily detained, jailed, and even apparently put to death without being given a fair trial. This could be anything as basic as snapping a snapshot of someone without their permission or taking the wrong turn when driving. The government of North Korea refuses to admit that it is detaining individuals from other countries against their will, and there is not much that the international community can practically do to help these individuals. Even if they are not detained on purpose, foreign nationals run the risk of being severely harmed if they become entangled in the political power struggles that take place within the opaque government. The most fundamental rights, such as access to legal advice or help from consular officials, simply do not exist. It is imperative for tourists to prepare for the possibility that they will receive no assistance if they find themselves accused of a crime and at the mercy of a dictatorship. Strict regulations and constant supervision. Travel within North Korea is subject to stringent regulations and constant surveillance. Tour groups are accompanied at all times by government minders, including plainclothes security agents who are tasked with reporting any action that may be deemed suspect. All travel is strictly limited to predetermined propaganda stops at predetermined locations, and no free movement of any kind is permitted during trips. It is not appropriate for tourists to engage in conversation with locals or venture off the established path. If it is determined that the photographs or recordings in question contain politically sensitive information, they are inspected and taken away. For reasons of public safety, access to mobile phones and the internet has been restricted. It is possible that espionage, subversion, or collusion with dissidents against the state could be misconstrued if there is any violation of the norms or contact with the locals. Visiting North Korea no longer qualifies as travel because of the high amount of control that is exercised there, which also makes any feeling of adventure or cultural interchange impossible. Permanent possibility of arrest or detention. Even minor infractions can result in detention under North Korea's murky legal system, which makes the country's lack of freedom and constant surveillance all the more concerning. Several citizens of the United States and other nations have been arbitrarily detained for committing petty violations, such as failing to remove a Bible from their hotel room or attempting to take a political memento out of the country. Some ended up spending lengthy prison sentences in conditions that were quite harsh before being eventually released as a result of diplomatic pressure. Others have vanished without a trace and have never been located. Independent travel to North Korea is far too perilous for casual tourists to attempt because there is always the possibility that even the smallest mistake might land you in prison there quickly. Instead of actual cultural experience, there will be propaganda. The entirety of North Korea is essentially one enormous propaganda exhibition that is open to the public. Visitors only see a carefully controlled and distorted version of reality that has been created to praise the dictatorship, while hiding true poverty, tyranny, or opposition because of the strict controls that are in place. The majority of interactions with locals are restricted to pre-approved tour guides and songs and dances that extol the cult of personality surrounding the Kim family. Because of the constraints, gaining any kind of genuine insight into the society, culture, or mentality of North Korea is impossible. Travel serves only the purpose of the state, which is to control foreign perceptions, rather than facilitating significant cultural interchange between different groups. Tourists are permitted, but they are not trusted or truly accepted in the community. Rather than being a sense of cultural immersion, it is more like a journey through a complex piece of propagandist theater. Threat of armed attack or kidnapping. Because of political tensions with their home countries, there have been isolated incidents in which Westerners have been kidnapped or assaulted in North Korea. However, these incidents are extremely rare. An example of this is a student from the United States who was kidnapped and later sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in 2016 after his tour group was accused of attempting to steal a propaganda banner. As tensions with the United States and its allies continue to rise, there is an increased possibility that you could find yourself in the heart of any localized skirmishes, attacks, or incidents that may occur. Even during times that are considered to be normal, people from other countries may experience hostility, harassment, or even violence at the hands of some nationalist North Koreans. These people have a deep-seated mistrust and suspicion of those from other countries. Because there is no diplomatic protection, there is no dependable recourse available in the event that something goes wrong during the visit. For the vast majority of people, the serious dangers involved in traveling to North Korea are simply not worth the possibility of exciting new experiences there. Concerns about ethics as well as economic controversies. It is estimated that more than $100 million in annual revenue from tourists from other countries goes directly towards financing the North Korean leadership. On the other hand, the average residents of North Korea, who have to deal with terrible poverty, food insecurity, human rights abuses, and a lack of basic freedoms, receive very little, if any, of this money. The governing family and military elite class are the ones who end up getting rich instead. Some people believe that by going there on vacation, one is inadvertently donating monies that help keep the regime in power and allow it to continue its human rights abuses. There are also issues with interactions with North Korean nationals, including regulated tour guides. This puts locals at risk of being imprisoned or punished if they fail to closely watch and report on outsiders, which is one of the reasons why there are concerns about these interactions. Responsible travel specialists urge avoiding vacations that financially support the dictatorship due to the extreme persecution that occurs there, as well as the ethical concerns that come with it. Possible dangers to people's health and safety. When compared to international norms, the infrastructure, emergency response capabilities, and overall hygiene standards across the entirety of North Korea are appalling. It is possible that passengers in need of specialized medical care who are in remote places will not find reliable water or power supplies, medical facilities, or ways to transport them swiftly. Stomach ailments brought on by ingesting food or water whose safety is in question are among the most common illnesses contracted by travelers. Depending on the regions explored, there is also a possibility of contracting malaria, hepatitis, or another infectious ailment. If there are not sufficient relief services in place, natural calamities like flooding pose a greater threat. The levels of pollution in some cities present serious health risks. Even the most common over-the-counter medicines and first aid supplies might not be easily accessible. North Korea is not a place that should be visited by visitors on a whim because there is a high probability that they would sustain a serious illness or injury that could have life-threatening repercussions due to the country's remote location and inadequate medical infrastructure. Alternatives that are less dangerous when traveling. Despite the fact that traveling to North Korea offers a once-in-a-lifetime experience due to the country's geographic isolation, experts on responsible tourism suggest that there are typically better options for those wanting an off-the-beaten-path location that has the opportunity for greater cultural exchange and less chance of physical damage. Examples of such regions include portions of sub-Saharan Africa, the region known as the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia, and parts of the broader Middle East that are currently experiencing turmoil. Some intrepid travelers are drawn to destinations such as Afghanistan, Yemen, portions of Pakistan, or regions of Central and South America. These destinations, however, come with inherent dangers that necessitate substantial pre-travel research and planning in addition to prior expertise in navigating volatile environments. However, in contrast to North Korea, these other options often have working systems of law and order, more dependable access to medical care, better personal freedoms, and the prospect for increased contact, and travelers are not indirectly supporting authoritarian governments in these other countries. Intrepid travelers who have a higher standard for their own safety than is reasonable for North Korea may find that high-risk regions elsewhere in the world provide intriguing cultural encounters if adequate preparation and planning are done in advance. North Korea presents a level of extreme risk that far outweighs any potential cultural or adventure rewards for casual international tourists. While the idea of breaking free from tight tourist bubbles to explore really off-the-grid locales may sound tempting in theory, the reality is that North Korea is not a safe place to visit. Reports of arbitrary detentions, restrictions on communication, health and safety hazards, a lack of travel freedoms, constant surveillance, the remote possibility of attack or abduction, and the possibility of inadvertently supporting a brutal dictatorship have led responsible travel authorities from around the world to advise avoiding independent travel to North Korea altogether. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.